Imagine this needle is your car, and this record is the road. When you turn the speed up just a little, you come up to hazards quicker. You have less time to react. If you hit a pedestrian at 50 kilometers per hour, there's a 50% chance they'll live. If you hit a pedestrian at 60 kilometers per hour, there's a 10% chance they'll live. If you're going too fast, you can't keep up with the road. Speed kills. So slow down. From the Road Safety Authority.
New York or LA or something like that. But if you want to start a family, come to Columbus.
Well, it's weird because, Cam Atkinson, he signed his long-term deal here. He's the kind of guy who could have rode his ticket anywhere he wanted, but he signs his contract. 2 weeks later, he's married. I don't know if Atkinson's got a kid on the. I know he does. He has a kid. So I mean, it's just one of those things where there was a joke in the local media whenever they bring free agents in. Over the summer, the last place to take him is they take him to the Columbus Zoo, which is a really nice zoo if you've never been to it. It's really impressive compared to other zoos I've been to, and they jokingly refer to the zoo as the closer, just because the idea is, if you're a young family, you got young kids, the zoo's a cool place to be, and it's kind of in a real nice area of Columbus where a lot of the players actually live within a couple miles of it near a Muirfield golf course where the Memorial Tournament happens each year. But it's kind of this funny enclave where a lot of the NHL players have gone to in the area. But
show them the hippos. Show them the hippos. They'll never want to leave. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Donut Bag, part of the Pod Hub Network. In this episode, the Penguins play the Columbus Blue Jackets on Tuesday, and I preview the game with Frank Walker from the Shoot Once podcast. The NHL Trade Deadline just concluded, and the Blue Jackets made a lot of moves. They're going all in. Donut Bag starts right now. The Penguins face the Blue Jackets Tuesday night, and we're coming off the NHL Trade Deadline, and all kinds of things happen, especially with the Blue Jackets. With me to talk about it is Frank Walker. He is at Shoot Once Pod on Twitter, host of the Shoot Once podcast. Hey, how you doing?
Doing good, thanks.
So I don't remember one team being so busy on one day. Well, not one day. I mean, it was the Duchesne trade was last week, but wow, the Blue Jackets they're going all in, aren't they?
Yeah, it's really funny you say that because apparently that was something they quoted Matt Duchesne saying today as well. They asked him about it, and he doesn't remember in his time in the league, and I don't remember watching it. One team just kind of making this decision. I mean, they've what was it? One of their writers today joked on Twitter that yes, the Blue Jackets are still going to the draft this year. They're just not going to show up till day 2 because they've traded away all but 2 picks. They went all in, and the fan base, as far as how I can read the fan base, loves it. Because we've seen for years this team just struggle and fight, and the feeling being, well, if we make the playoffs, that's a victory. But I think the fans are really reacting to Jarmo Kekalainen's approach of, and he's said it multiple times now, my goal isn't to go in and win 1 round. My goal is to win 4 rounds of the playoffs. And that's really what's kind of pushing him in some of the decision-making I think he's been making these last couple of weeks.
You gotta love it as a Blue Jackets fan. I mean, very clearly he's saying, this is it. This is the year. We're going for it this year. Let's go. And it's just a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing when, I mean, hell, well, screw the future, but yeah, it's a wonderful thing. I saw some jokes today. Some other teams would make a trade and they said they violated NHL rules because they didn't make a trade to Columbus, because it seemed like every time there was news about a trade, Columbus was involved. Like they just took everybody. Did they make like 3 or 4 deals today?
Today they only made 2. Today were just and the ones that happened today were just kind of little addendums. They made one this morning. They traded for New Jersey's backup goalie Keith Kincaid. Mm-hmm. And then they traded for a defenseman from New York Rangers, Adam McQuaid. And both of them are very much depth moves, I think. McQuaid was really just to have another goaltender on the roster for if somebody gets hurt, I believe. McQuaid, I think they're wanting. It's that old hockey mentality of, having somebody with a little snarl in them that's willing to pick a fight or something like that on that back end. And that's kind of what they're going for. Also, one of our defensemen, Ryan Murray's, he's day-to-day at this point. So I think they're just wanting as many healthy bodies as they can have on the team. And I think they already thought, well, the 2019 draft is pretty much shot, so let's just go ahead and not worry about it. And it's funny because for years as a Blue Jackets fan and listening to Jarmo Kekalainen talk about his idea, he always wanted to be better now and in the future. And I think what's happened is he has been encouraged as some of the prospects we have playing overseas and playing in Canadian Junior and whatnot are showing a little more promise than he thought. And he's thought, you know what? I've got this unique opportunity to go for a win. I'm going to do it. And the other thing that it came to me today, because not sure how much all your listeners follow the NHL closely, but the fan base everybody feels bad for now is the Ottawa Senators, because they've just been trading away star after star. In the last 2 years, they've traded away the 4 best players on the team because they're in this kind of rebuild where they're not really willing to pay people and all this stuff. And very easily the Columbus situation could have gone that way, where with Artemi Panarin on the last year of his deal and Sergei Bobrovsky on the last year of his deal, and it looking like neither one of those guys is going to re-sign, the Columbus management could have thrown their arms up and said, well, what can we do? Traded them for a couple of picks and maybe a prospect and moved on. But they did this move. They were like, nope, we're going to go for it. We're going to get everybody we can. We're going to go get we're going to get Matt Duchene. We're going to get Ryan Dzingel. We're going to take 2 of the biggest names out there on the trading block and really go for it.
Yeah, that was the thing. That was the big question. Are they going to sell or are they going to buy? And they bought with a vengeance. And yeah, it's a great thing. It looks like everything is aligned right now because not only do you have these great additions. I mean, how has Duchene done so far? I know he's just been there not too long, but he's your first line center, right?
Yeah, he's pretty much stepped into that role. And in 2 games, he's got a goal, he's got an assist, so he's got 2 points in 2 games. So he's keeping up that roughly point a game of pace he's had. Had his first goal in his first home game there the other night when we played the Sharks. Had a game where we beat them 4-0, and it was a game where the Jackets just looked like they were in charge from beginning to end. And it's an encouraging thing as a Blue Jackets fan to see this, and something I've been talking about on my show, because we've been talking about trying to get Matt Duchene forever. Just the whole fan base liked the idea of getting him, even when he was available in Colorado, because whereas Pittsburgh fans have been spoiled with having Crosby and Malkin down the center for the last so many years and for so many years to come, with the exception of one good year out of Ryan Johansson and the budding potential of Pierre-Luc Dubois, who's currently on the team, we really haven't even had a number 1 center. So Pierre-Luc Dubois in the last year or 2 really looked like he's becoming a good number 1 center. But now to have a true number 1 center in Matt Duchene, and then Pierre-Luc Dubois can line up as a number 2 as he's growing into being better, because I think he's only 19 or 20, is really encouraging as a Blue Jackets fan. I mean, it was the kind of thing where when the trade happened, it looks like a big price, especially if we end up paying the second first-round pick if he re-signs. But honestly, if he re-signs, I almost don't care what the price is. For this team to have 2 centers that are legitimately good, well-slotted number 1, number 2 centers on an NHL team, I'm fine paying what it takes, because we've not had that. This team's been here for 19 years, and we have not had that. So to have a year where we're going in and saying, you know what, let's get the pieces, we have a chance, let's just make it happen, I'm all for it. And the other thing is, Duchene, there's the potential they actually get a deal done with him as far as re-signing. He is kind of that. It's weird. And being a Blue Jackets fan for a while, I've noticed a trend. The guys who come to Columbus and want to stay in Columbus are a lot of guys who are starting families. And I'm not sure if it's something about the city or what it is, but the guys who either come as free agents or who sign long-term deals normally tend to be guys who are either married or have young children or something like that. And Matt Duchene's right in that wheelhouse. So maybe they can keep him. Who knows? We'll see.
So any single guy needs to go somewhere else, like New York or LA or something like that. But if you want to start a family, come to Columbus.
Well, it's weird because Cam Atkinson, he signed his long-term deal here. He's the kind of guy who could have rode his ticket anywhere he wanted, but he signs his contract. 2 weeks later, he's married. I don't know if Atkinson's got a kid on the. I know he does. He has a kid. So I mean, it's just one of those things where there was a joke in the local media whenever they bring free agents in over the summer. The last place they take them is they take them to the Columbus Zoo, which is a really nice zoo if you've never been to it. It's really impressive compared to other zoos I've been to, and they jokingly refer to the zoo as the closer. Just because the idea is, if you're a young family, you got young kids, the zoo's a cool place to be, and it's kind of in a real nice area of Columbus where a lot of the players actually live within a couple miles of it at near a Muirfield golf course where the Memorial Tournament happens each year. But it's kind of this funny enclave where a lot of the NHL players have gone to in the area. But
show them the hippos. Show them the hippos. They'll never want to leave.
Well, it's funny too because there's normally one story every year that comes out about mid to late summer where a lot of the Blue Jacket players are coming back into town to start doing, getting ready for training camp. And there's about 10 to 12 NHL players who came to Columbus and just stayed here. Mm-hmm. The funny thing is, even though Rick Nash has spent his last few years professionally in New York, he kept a house in Columbus. His family predominantly lives in Columbus. It's the kind of city where a lot of NHL players get here. And once they're here, they're like, I like it here. This is nice. I can enjoy it. I can be a hockey player. I can make a ton of money. It's a great city to raise a family in. But at the same time, whereas hockey's rising in popularity, most of these guys aren't like stopped and harassed on the streets. It's pretty easy for them to move around and still have a pretty normal life. So
that's the thing. It's not. I was just going to say that hockey's not the most the biggest. The Blue Jackets aren't the biggest team in town. that's the Buckeyes. So it's nice. It's not like you're in Montreal or something where you're constantly getting hounded, or New York or something like that. So and hey, the Blue Jackets almost have to play the Penguins every single year. And like you said, the Penguins are strong in the middle. They're strong at center. And that was always a big matchup problem when the Blue Jackets and Penguins would play in the playoffs is, one team was very strong at center and one team was very weak. And that was, it was almost too much to overcome. Just that matchup alone. So, this got to be very exciting for the Blue Jackets. But one thing, Bobrovsky, he seems to be doing better lately, but it looked pretty rocky at first. It sounded like, what was he getting suspended or benched, or I don't know. I don't know what was going on, but it looks like he's been better lately.
Yeah, there was an incident a few weeks back. I forget which specific game it was, but they pulled him because it was just a rough start. I mean, every goalie has games where things just go off the rails and it's bad. And they pulled him off the ice, and then instead of staying at the bench, he went back to the locker room. It was an emotional time. Apparently, there was a team meeting had about it, and the teams decided it's done. There was no suspension or anything the team took into account because they considered it a finished situation. And I think for Bobrovsky, it's been a rough season for him in a little bit because he's in this contract year. You could argue previous to this season, he may be, if he's not the best goaltender in the league, he is a top 5. I mean, he's had 2 Vezinas. He's a great goaltender. And I think his frustration came from 2 places. One, he wasn't playing well so far this season, and he's picking it up now, which if he could finally play well in the playoffs, that would be the best thing in the world, especially for him and what he wants. The reason there's probably not a contract happening, which is probably another part of his frustration is, and I understand this, but Bobrovsky saw what Carey Price got, which Carey Price of the Montreal Canadiens got something like an 8-year deal, $10 million a year. And